Every decision makes an impact on your life, some bigger than others. What kind of lunch meat you put in your sandwich might only affect the rest of your afternoon. Choosing to give your kidney to your mom could change the rest of your life.
He took very good care of my mom and me. And I just thought that his work was very valuable, and the care and his charisma towards the patients and the family. It was wonderful.
That's living donor Edith Aguilar. She's joined by her husband and nephrology nurse, Walter. I'm Sarah Jane Castro, Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois, and your host for this edition of The Journey Continues. Walter and Edith, thank you so much for joining us. Walter, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse for maybe about 35 years.
Why did you want to go into that field? What drew you to nursing?
Before I came to the United States, I was already wanted to explore careers into the healthcare to help people overcome their chronic conditions.
And has your entire nursing career been in nephrology and working with kidney patients?
Yes.
Why nephrology? What do you enjoy about working with kidney patients?
When I first started in nephrology in the dialysis unit, I kind of got attached to my patients there because, you get to see the same patients every time you come to work. You are part of their family and they are part of your family.
I love that. So are you still working with dialysis patients now? What stage of kidney disease patients do you work with?
I am still working with dialysis patients, but in a different role. I work for Northwestern Memorial Hospital, and I'm working now in the transplant program. I do community outreach, so I go to the dialysis units to educate patients about their transplant.
And do you find that this is the first time they've maybe considered transplant when you have that conversation with them? Or is it something that maybe they're already thinking about and you can help coach them through the process?
From the experience that I had so far, I have seen that some patients are unaware of the transplant option. So, I try to educate them and let them know their options and try to see if I can also communicate that to their families, because I know how important it is for them to have the support that they need to go through the whole process. So I also try not to just talk to the patients, but also to the family members.
I love that. We've talked to so many people on this podcast about after transplant. It's not just, okay, you're ready to go, hop back out there. You need that family support. You need your family around you to help you in recovery and as you get used to your transplant medications. So I love that you incorporate the family into that process and in encouraging patients. What do you find most rewarding about working with on the sort of transplant side of things?
When I usually talk to these patients in the dialysis units, and then I kind of talk to the social workers there to refer them to the program, the Northwestern. When I see those referrals, that's kind of my reward, just to know that, the patients have decided to move forward with the transplant process. Because sometimes, when you are in the dialysis unit, they kind of undecided and they kind of find barriers on their own just to move on through the process.
What are some of the common barriers or fears that you're hearing from patients?
The main ones is misinformation, about what's going to happen to me if I stop dialysis and start with the transplant. Some people have heard things about other patients that might have gone into rejection. So they kind of fear that stage.
Yeah, I'm sure that is a scary thing to consider, but I'm glad that they have educators who can come and talk to them and share the realities with them and not have those misconceptions stop them from receiving a transplant if that's a possibility. Edith, how did your mom learn that she had kidney disease?
She was ill for some time. She went to different doctors and they told her different things. But then she went to Brush Hospital where she did a lot of labs and a lot of exams, and that's where she found out that she had kidney disease.
What was it like to see her going through that?
It was devastating because I was living in Mexico at the time and she was living here. She called me once and she said, I think I'm going to die.
Oh.
I think I'm going to die. And I don't know if I'll see you again.
That had to be really hard to hear.
Yes, it was.
Why did you decide to become her donor, or how did you decide to become her donor?
As I was living in Mexico, I saw a lot of needs, a lot of people that didn't understand how to take care of themselves. I was living with my dad at the time, and I told him that when I passed away, that my goal was to become a donor, to donate my body to science. But I never thought that I was going to become a living donor. But it was always in my mind that I was going to be a donor.
That's wonderful. How did you learn that that was a possibility, that you could give your mom a kidney now?
I think there was an interview on TV. They were interviewing family members where one of them became a donor and it was okay to live with one kidney. And when my mom told me that, I had recently seen that on TV, and I told her that, if she wanted, I could become her donor, that I had a good health. She didn't want to at the beginning because she said that I was too young, that she was going to try with her siblings first, but they weren't a good match for her.
Okay. How old were you at that time?
I was 26.
And that's kind of classic mom move, to be worried about your child. You don't want them to be in danger. So what was the process like working up to becoming her donor?
In Mexico, I had to get labs done, and then I sent them to her, the results. And then at Rush, they saw them and they said I would be a good match for her. So I had to travel to the United States and go through a long process.
That's amazing that you started it internationally. I didn't know that was possible. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what was surgery day like?
It was the day after the 4th of July. And we were very tired because of the fireworks and, the parties outside. And I told my sisters before I went in, because I would be the first one to go in on the operating room, that I hoped that the doctor had a good night's rest.
I think we all hope that when we're going into surgery, but especially on the heels of a holiday.
Yes.
So when did you meet Walter?
I met him at the dialysis center before we were even thought of having the operation. We had to go through a long process of exams and to make sure that it was going to be a right fit. And I would accompany my mom at the dialysis center where Walter worked. And he took very good care of my mom and me. And I just thought that, that his work was very valuable, and the care and his charisma towards the patients and the family. It was wonderful.
So you were drawn to that sort of caregiver aspect and how well he was caring for your mom. Was it love at first sight?
I think it was. I don't know if it was admiration at the beginning. I was like, wow, I really admire the way that human touch, it's not just patient caregiver. No, he really took his time caring for his patients, making sure they got what they need, offering rides if their transportation didn't arrive. He always went over and above.
Yeah, I think that would catch my attention too. So, Walter, what did you think of Edith when you first met her?
Well, when I first met her, it was her mom who kind of introduced me to her before she even was here in the U.S. It was her mom who was telling me about her daughter that was coming from Mexico to donate her a kidney. So I was very impressed with that. I mean, that she was coming from very far to the U.S. just to give her mom a second chance to, continue with her life.
Yeah, that would impress me too. So when you first met, was it love at first sight for you? Were there sparks?
Yes, it was love at first sight. That's what I always tell her, Since I saw you that first time, that I had feelings for you already.
And I love that your mom laid the groundwork too and was like, hey, I got this daughter. She's coming. That's a good mom. So who made the first move? Who asked who out?
I think I did, it was like one time I was just calling her mom at home just to see how was she doing. And she's the one that picked up the phone. So we started the conversation there. From there, we started trying to become friends and trying to know each other.
And then it just took off.
Yes.
Had you ever done anything like that before, like met a patient's sibling or daughter, anybody? Had that even crossed your mind when you're at work that you could find love?
Never, never. Because I was also going to school at that time. So I was kind of very focused on my school at that time. So, I mean, it didn't cross my mind that I was, fall in love with her.
Edith, did you have any idea when you came up to give your mom a kidney that you were going to meet your future husband?
Absolutely not. I was very focused to return back to Mexico. I had asked for permission to leave my work. I had my life over there, my friends. My home was Mexico, not the United States. And I made sure that everybody knew that I was coming here for a purpose. And once I completed my mission, that I would return. But things took a different route.
What did your mom think when you started dating Walter?
My mom kind of like, nah, that can't be. She was never really involved. She didn't have any feelings towards it, either good or bad, because I was just so determined to go back to Mexico. I was like, Chicago's too cold for me. I need to go back to Mexico. So she was surprised that I stayed.
Yeah, especially since you were so determined to get back to your life, and this detour wasn't in the plans at all.
No, it was not.
How did Walter support you and your mom post-transplant? It sounds like he worked with her at her dialysis clinic, but post-transplant when she wasn't going there.
He was a great instrument in all the process, because when I got here, I didn't drive. So he would take me to my appointments because there was a lot of checkup, to make sure that everything was going to go well, that I didn't have any health issues. So he would take me for all my exams. And then right after the operation, he had to go to school. And I told him that I would be okay. Once I felt better, that I would call him. And I remember waking up from the anesthesia and they were asking me, how are you doing? I was like, I'm doing well. And then he spoke and I looked and he was right by my side. So he never left me. And that he told me that he skipped school because of me. So he was always there by my side once I was in my room.
Oh my gosh, y'all are going to make me cry. That's so sweet. How long did you date before you decided to get married?
2 years.
Was that a hard decision to stay in Chicago and not return to your life?
It was a very hard decision, but it was worth it.
Do you think your mom would have recommended having a nephrology nurse in the family?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But she was happy after the fact.
How did things go post-transplant for your mom's health?
She had 6 years of quality life before going back to dialysis. And I think that extending that time of quality for her and not having dialysis for that time period is a treasure.
Yeah. Walter, what do you wish more people knew about kidney health?
When I talk to dialysis patients and I talk to their families, I usually use my wife to let them know about living donation. I use her as an example, and I use her because, a lot of people are afraid that, if they donate one of their kidneys, they might end up in the same situation as their family member. I let them know that, my wife donated a kidney to her mom, and, it has passed many years already, and she's healthy. We have 4 wonderful kids, after her living with only one kidney. And, she has always been healthy. And only thing is that she goes to her regular checkups. But, she doesn't need any other measures to keep on living.
That's wonderful. And you couldn't ask for a better example to show your patients than here, I live with someone who is the living example. And you can look at her and see this is okay. You can do this. And
Yes.
That's wonderful that you were able to have 4 children at post-transplant. I know that is a concern for a lot of young women who haven't had children yet. Think, well, I'll wait until after I have kids before I do that. So, Edith, when you were expecting your children, was there any concern from your doctors about just having one kidney?
Not at all, because all my checkups were great. I never had any concerns during pregnancy or during labor. Everything was as it should be.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. What advice do you have for other people who are maybe considering living donation? Like if you could go speak to Walter's patients, what advice would you give?
Not to be afraid. Don't listen to bad propaganda. Listen to your heart. Go to your doctor. Let your doctor be your advisor. And life, it doesn't have to change after donating a kidney. You could still lead a wonderful, healthy life.
It could just change if you happen to fall in love with your mom's nurse and move countries.
Yeah, it enhances your life.
Yeah. Would you recommend donating a kidney as a great way to meet your future husband?
Yes. After we married, I had to go back to college so I could get a degree. And I wrote a paper on how I met my husband. And my professor, my English professor, he said, well, that's a win-win. You lose a kidney and you gain a husband.
Absolutely. Maybe I need to just delete all the apps and go donate a kidney. That's the way I'm going to meet my next husband. Well, thank you so much, Walter and Edith, for sharing your very sweet story of love and organ donation and kidney health with us. I'm so grateful to you for coming on The Journey Continues and sharing your love story with us. It's so beautiful. When I met you both, I was so impressed and just like, we have to do a podcast episode. This is the sweetest thing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you're considering living donation, learn more about the process by visiting our website at nkfi.org. I'm Sarah Jane Castro, and this is The Journey Continues. Prevention is a key part of our mission at NKFI. That's why at the end of each episode, we offer a health or nutrition tip.
Here's today's nutrition tip about calcium. Calcium is a mineral that is essential to bones and teeth, with 99% of the calcium in our body stored in them. Our bones are constantly being broken down and rebuilt, and we use the stored calcium in our body to do this process. Our nerves, heart, and the ability to clot blood all use calcium to do their work as well. As we age, we start to lose the amount of calcium stored in our body. In women, as estrogen levels decline with age, calcium absorption can also decline. Calcium is rich in yogurt, milk, fortified dairy alternatives like soy milk and almond milk, sardines and salmon with bones, cheese, tofu, green leafy vegetables like broccoli, turnip leaves, kale, fortified breakfast cereals, fortified juices, nuts and seeds, legumes and grains, cornmeal, and corn tortillas. Calcium is better absorbed by your body if you eat a food with vitamin D in it as well. So milk fortified with vitamin D allows you to better absorb the calcium in milk. Adults aged 19 years or older need 1,000 milligrams a day of calcium, and women over the age of 51 need 1,200 milligrams per day. Eating 3 servings of dairy foods a day can help you meet that goal. If you have chronic kidney disease, you may have to limit the amount of dairy-rich foods per day. Talk with your kidney doctor to know how much calcium a day is right for you. With today's nutrition tip, I'm Melissa Press, a registered dietitian nutritionist.